Welcome to the Partis channel. Today we explain Prophets Judges chapter 4 in a clear and simple way, step by step. Okay, let's just jump right into the structure of today's explainer. We'll start by setting the stage with the desperate oppression of the Israelites. Then we'll witness the rise of two very different leaders, Deborah and Barak. From there, we'll break down the massive military clash at the Kishon River, and then zoom in on the intensely pivotal, almost cinematic encounter between Jael and Sisera. Finally, we're going to clarify some key ideas from the text and distill the real-world life lessons we can take away. Let's get started. Section 1, Context and the Oppression. We are kicking things off right at verses 1 through 3, and right away, we see a devastating cycle repeating itself. The previous leader, Ehud, has passed away, and the Israelites once again do evil in the eyes of the Lord. The consequences? They are immediate and they are severe. They are sold directly into the hands of Jabin, a powerful Canaanite king who rules from Hazor. But the real terror on the ground is his ruthless military commander, Sisera, based in Harosheth Hagoyim. Now, I want you to picture the reality of this. Sisera commands an army equipped with 900 iron chariots. In the ancient world, an iron chariot was literally an unstoppable military juggernaut. It's the equivalent of having a fleet of modern tanks while your opponent has basically nothing. It represents absolute, crushing technological superiority. And for 20 agonizing years, the weight of this cruel oppression grinds the Israelites down. They are completely stripped of their autonomy until, finally, they break. They cry out to the Lord for help from this massive, 2-decade nightmare. Section 2, Deborah and Barak. So, verses 4 and 5 introduce us to the leadership God raises up to meet this crisis. We meet Deborah, a prophetess, and the text brilliantly illustrates the simple, literal meaning, the peshat, of her role as a judge. You know, she wasn't just some symbolic spiritual figure operating in the background. She was the recognized active authority in the land. She would literally hold court under a specific tree, aptly named the Palm of Deborah, situated in the hill country of Ephraim between Ramah and Bethel. Imagine the scene. Israelites from all over the region traveling to this specific palm tree just to bring their civil disputes to her. She's a public leader, a prophetess, and a judge, all wrapped into one, holding the fragile fabric of this oppressed nation together. Moving into verses 6 through 9, Deborah summons a man named Barak, son of Abinoam. She delivers a direct divine command, gather 10,000 men at Mount Tabor. And God makes a massive promise here. He promises to lure Sisera and his terrifying chariot army right into Barak's hands at the Kishon River. Now, you would expect a military leader to jump straight into action, right? Instead, Barak hesitates. He issues this incredibly famous condition. He looks at Deborah and says, "If you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go." Deborah agrees to march with him. But because of this hesitation, she immediately delivers a stunning, highly specific prophecy. She tells him that the ultimate glory of this victory is not going to be his. The Lord is going to hand the fearsome enemy commander over to a woman. In verses 10 and 11, Barak actually follows through. He summons exactly 10,000 men from the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali, and they march up to Mount Tabor with Deborah right there at his side. But right in the middle of this military buildup, the text drops this seemingly random geographical detail. It mentions a man named Heber the Kenite. Heber is a descendant of Moses' brother-in-law, and he had separated from his wider clan to pitch his tent nearby, at the great tree in Zananim, near Kedesh. Now, whenever the text drops a hyper-specific detail like this right before a battle, you need to pay attention. Tuck the location of Heber's tent into the back of your mind because it is about to become the absolute center of the entire story. Section 3. The battle commences. So, verses 12 through 16, the tension finally breaks. Sisera hears about Barak's massive mobilization at Mount Tabor, and he doesn't hold back. He deploys his ultimate weapon, all 900 iron chariots, plus all his troops, and moves them down to the Kishon River. Deborah looks at Barak and gives the definitive order, "Go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands." Barak marches his 10,000 men down the mountain, and what happens next isn't some long, drawn-out equal fight. It is an absolute chaotic rout. The Lord throws Sisera's technologically superior army into total panic. The text tells us they are routed by the sword. The devastation is so absolute that Barak's forces pursue the chariots all the way back to Harosheth Hagoyim. Not a single man of Sisera's army is left alive. And Sisera himself, the terrifying, unbeatable commander, is forced to abandon his chariot entirely and flee for his life on foot. Section 4, Jael and Sisera. This brings us to verses 17 through 21, and the focus shifts from a massive, noisy battlefield to the most intense, localized, and quiet encounter of the chapter. A terrified, totally exhausted Sisera arrives on foot at the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Remember them? Jael actively steps out to meet him. She invites him in, she reassures him, and she hides him under a blanket. Sisera is parched, so he asks for a simple drink of water. But Jael does something remarkable. She opens a skin of rich milk instead. She gives him a heavy drink, lulling him into a much deeper sense of security, and then covers him up again. Sisera gives her strict orders to stand guard at the doorway and lie to anyone who comes looking. But as soon as sheer exhaustion pulls Sisera into a deep, heavy sleep, Jael makes her move. With terrifying precision and total silence, she takes a simple everyday household item, a tent peg, and a hammer. She creeps up to him and she drives the peg straight through his temple and down into the ground, completely neutralizing the commander of the Canaanite army. Verse 22 ties the narrative threads together perfectly. Barak, who was still relentlessly hunting the enemy commander, finally arrives at the encampment. Jael goes out to meet him, echoing exactly how she went out to meet Sisera earlier. She says to him, "Come, I will show you the man you're looking for." She leads Barak inside the tent, and there he is. There lies the architect of 20 years of cruel oppression, utterly defeated. Not by an entire army, not on an open battlefield, but by a lone civilian woman acting decisively in her own tent. Deborah's prophecy from back in verse 9, it is perfectly, literally fulfilled right before Barak's eyes. Section 5. Key ideas and clarifications. Let's pause our narrative walkthrough for just a second to clarify some key concepts directly from the simple text. Look at the stark contrast in decisive action between Barak and Jael. Barak was the designated military commander, right? He had an army of 10,000 men, yet he hesitated to act alone based on a divine command. He required Deborah's physical presence to feel secure. And as a direct result of that hesitation, he lost the ultimate honor. Now look at Jael. She was a civilian operating completely alone in her domestic space, yet she acted decisively. Without a single moment's hesitation, she neutralized the formidable commander of the 900 iron chariots, gaining the historical glory for the victory. It's a massive reversal of expectations. But we really have to ask, why on earth did Sisera flee to that specific tent in the first place? It wasn't random chance. The text explains that there was a literal political peace alliance, friendly relations, between King Jabin of Hazor and the clan of Heber the Kenite. So, based on the geopolitical map of the time, Sisera logically believed he was walking into a safe harbor with a trusted ally. He completely underestimated the woman inside, assuming a political treaty on paper guaranteed his absolute physical safety. That miscalculation cost him everything. Section 6. Life Lessons and Recap. As we wrap up this textual journey, what are the practical life lessons we can take away and apply right now to improve ourselves? First, step up when leadership is desperately needed, exactly as Deborah did for her entire nation when they were broken. Second, when you know what the right thing to do is, do it without hesitation and without conditions. Remember, Barak's hesitation cost him his ultimate legacy. Third, never underestimate where courage comes from. The greatest bravery often emerges from the most unexpected places, like a lone woman in a tent stepping up to end a national military crisis. And finally, our literal actions carry direct consequences. Whether it's a nation doing evil and facing oppression, or an individual acting decisively to secure peace, what we do physically matters. Verses 23 and 24 give us the final recap of the chapter. They detailed the broader impact of this massive day. On that day, God subdued King Jabin before the Israelites. This decisive battle at the Kishon River and in Jael's tent broke the back of the oppressor. From that moment on, the hand of the Israelites grew stronger and stronger until they completely destroyed Jabin, bringing an absolute final end to 20 years of cruelty. The oppressor was ultimately shattered by the oppressed. But it leaves us with a profound question to ponder. When the chains of oppression are finally broken and peace is secured, how do the victors choose to live in the quiet that follows? Because the answer to that question changes everything. Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.